happened is that when I ended up, if you will, losing everything, it gave me this opportunity to reprocess all the lessons she had learned and brought it to the surface. And I ultimately realized that giving to others, being of service, that's what gives meaning in life. And that lesson, which I relearned later, has given my own life the most meaning and has really been incredibly beneficial and allowed me to do the work that I do today, which is run a center that examines the neuroscience of compassion and altruism and gives people tools to manifest that in their own lives. And by doing so, really has a profound effect on both mental but physical health and ultimately longevity. So the value proposition is not only do these behaviors give life meaning, but they are also critical ultimately to your health. And in fact, the Dalai Lama says if you want to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to make others happy, practice compassion. And that's really the point.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you have now partnered with the Dalai Lama with your Center for Compassion and Altruism
Research and Education.
I had it pretty well there.
She's doing okay.
I have.
We call it CCARE, which makes it really easy.
Yes, it does.
CCARE. And if somebody wants to learn about that a little bit more, it's CCARE, ccare.stanford.edu. And actually, if they want to learn more about the book and some of the background, that's intothemagicshop.com. What's really quite extraordinary is that not only has it gotten on the New York Times bestseller list, but it's now being translated into 20 languages.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's really quite amazing, and I feel very blessed.
As you should, as you should. And I just need to know, in all your time you spend with the Dalai Lama, has he ever just been like, hey Jim, you got to chill a little bit? Or do you feel like you're well matched to his level of relaxation?
I think that when one is in the presence of somebody like him, what you find is that you appreciate, most of us sort of carry this burden around with us of how we want to present ourselves to people.
Yes.
You know, like we have our act together and, you know, we're accomplished. And because, you know, most of the people we interact with in our world, in the modern world, are not necessarily people we know. So we're always trying to impress them. And we think that's important versus showing them your vulnerability and who you really are, because you don't want people to judge you on your failures or your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
When you're with somebody like the Dalai Lama, in his presence, you suddenly realize you don't have to do any of that at all. And as soon as you are there with him, you're embraced by just unconditional love. And when that happens, suddenly your spirit becomes very light and you just feel incredibly happy. And that's the power of people giving one unconditional love. And it works for each of us. And when we give that to another, it's a very powerful gift.
Be your authentic self.
Yes.
That is indeed a gift. And I do know that you have a tight schedule today. I have one more question, and this is just going to be the question that I ask every author I have the honor of interviewing. If you ever find yourself in a room with Stephen King, will you encourage him to come to Anderson's and be interviewed?
It's a deal.
That's fantastic. I could ask you probably 150 more questions because your book is fascinating. You are fascinating. For one last little bit, your talk of being your authentic self and compassion and service and spirituality, but you're an atheist.
That's correct.
And a book I read shortly after starting work here that I found more closely matched how I feel on the inside was Breakfast with the Buddha and Dinner with the Buddha. I found those just wonderful books where the main character in that, the Rinpoche, says, you know, and this may be something from the Dalai Lama as well, I am all religions and none.
Well, and you know, it's interesting you bring that up because I've had a number of people who are attached to their religion say to me, I don't understand how you can be friends with so and so. You know, I've memorized all their texts and I've been practicing this for years and I never met them yet. You know nothing about this, and they embrace you and you have these relationships with them. And I said, because I have no attachment to this.
To, right.
And in fact, even the statement that you're saying to me tells you haven't imbued internally your own practices, because behind closed doors with most of these people, and in fact, actually for many being in front, it's not about the dogma, it's about being your authentic self. And these people can read immediately, because they're so evolved, if you will, if you're being insincere or you have a hidden agenda. So if you meet with them and your only agenda is to share the present with them, they embrace you. And you know, if you look at the endorsements on the book, you probably won't see many books that have the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, Amma, Sogyal Rinpoche, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, and not only these religious leaders, but a whole variety of other very prominent individuals, neuroscientists, and a whole.
It's such a beautiful mix, and that is something to aspire to be able to let go of all of that, which is hard when you're brought up here and maybe you question everything else.
Sure.
So to be able to let it all go and just be light.
Well, and not to sort of focus too much on the Dalai Lama, but he says, my religion is kindness. And frankly, that's all you need. If that's what you focus on, you don't need all this other baggage. That's really it. So that's what I would tell you. What's interesting is, do you know Glenn Beck?
Yes.
So Glenn Beck, as you probably know, maybe some of the listeners don't, he's a sort of right of center commenter. Glenn has written a very positive thing about the book, and you know, he's fairly religious. And it's interesting, he had me on his show, and we had the same conversation.
I'm sure it's not new for you.
Yes, no. But I am blessed that I do get to hang out with these people. I was at the Vatican fairly recently with the Pope, and I was down in Cape Town with Tutu. So I'm able to get around and have fun and hang out with
What a
these
blessing.
people. No, it's extraordinary.
And a blessing that you spent some time with us today. And
Well,
we will all try to
where else
practice
would I want to
kindness.
be but LaGrange, Illinois, at Anderson's bookstore with Mary, one of my
biggest fans.
Exactly.
Thank you, Doctor.
Sure,
Thank you so
sure.
much.
No. Wonderful.
How'd we do there, George?